Welcome to Lubera, the Swiss fruit and berry plant producers and breeders. My name is Markus, I'm founder and breeder of Lubera. This week I was in our nursery in northern Germany, and beside my work, my daily work, I was visiting also some gardens, and especially the garden of Lutetsburg, which is near the city of Norden, only some kilometers away from the North Sea. And I was very impressed by this garden and the story of this garden. When you look back at the 18th century, so there were at least 4 revolutions. The first revolution was the American Revolution, so the American independence from Britain, from the king. The second revolution was the French Revolution, and perhaps more important was an inner revolution, the change in the way people behave. So the individual became much more important than before. Before, everybody had to do what was his fate. His place in the society was very clear, and he had to do what he had to do. And afterwards, everybody, or many of them, having enough property, tried to become individuals, to have more impressions, to have their own personal goals. And of course the fourth revolution was the revolution of gardens. So the gardens of the 17th and 16th century were very clear, geometric, with clear lines. And it changed to a landscape garden, first in Britain, then also on the continent, where the garden had not anymore the most important role to represent the owner and his place in the society, but to represent, not to represent, but to give impressions to individuals. So the visitor going through the landscape gardens had to become as many impressions, interesting views for his individuality. And this change was very important in the garden history. And I think this garden of Lutetsburg is a very good example on the continent for this change, for this fourth revolution, the garden revolution. Though the creator of this garden was the Baron from Inn and Kniphausen, Edzard Moritz of Inn and Kniphausen, and his life story is very interesting in this respect. He was the third son of a baron, and he was not expected to become the successor because he had 2 older brothers. But his 2 older brothers died, and he became suddenly successor of the barons of Inn and Kniphausen. Before that, he was supposed to become to work in a ministry and to marry as rich as possible, and he didn't do both of it. So he didn't become a worker in a ministry, to become an administrator, and he didn't marry a rich woman. He married his love. And becoming the Baron of Inn and Kniphausen, he suddenly changed the garden. He started this work at 1800, and he changed a typical garden of the 17th or 16th century with clear geometric forms to a landscape garden. So representation goes over to as many impressions to individuals as possible. Of course, this story has also a little bit ironic side, because one of the uncles or great uncles of Moritz Edzard, or Edzard Moritz of Inn and Kniphausen, was one of the most important generals on the side of the British in the war against American independence, and was one of the most important enemies of George Washington. So the fronts in these revolutions, from a clear society where everybody has his fate and has to do what he's supposed to do, to a more free society and a more individual society, the fronts in this war, in this revolution, were not always very clear. But we go now to the garden and enjoy the garden views. This one of the first German landscape gardens. And of course, it was built after many other gardens, especially English gardens, which were created in the second half and in the middle of the 18th century in Britain. Go and enjoy. Where have all the flowers gone? I know where. Here you go to Lubera UK with all our breedings and thousands of more plants. Here you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and now pick the flowers.